Whispers of Horrors by, at Floral One Writes One Tales. Chapter 1. It was a night like any other, the first evening back for the second year at university. The campus was quiet, the air thick with the promise of an impending storm. Streetlights flickered sporadically, and the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally far into the dimly lit quad. Mallory stood alone, arms crossed as she glanced around, a faint unease tugging at the edges of her mind. Something about tonight feels different, she thought. She rubbed her chin thoughtfully, her instincts telling her that whatever it wasn't good. The cozy warmth of the campus cafe offered a sharp contrast to the eerie atmosphere outside. The comforting aroma of coffee filled the space, but it did little to ease Mallory's nerves. She sat at a table, her friends Jade and Harper joining her moments later. Harper plopped down into her chair with a smirk. "Okay, spill," she said, leaning forward. "Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Jade crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. "Don't tell me it's that urban legend about the library ghosts again." "I'm serious," Mallory said, her voice tinged with unease. "Didn't you feel it walking here? Like someone was watching us?" Harper laughed, her chuckle light and dismissive. "You're just paranoid. Final stress, maybe?" Mallory looked away, her fingers fidgeting as she tried to shake the feeling of being followed. Before she could respond, a sudden chill swept through the room, the warmth of the cafe seeming to evaporate in an instant. The loud bang of a door slamming startled them all. Harper clutched the edge of the table, wide-eyed. Jade's gasp echoed the rising tension. "Did anyone else feel that?" Jade whispered, her voice barely audible. "Please tell me the AC just kicked in," Harper said, her usual sarcasm replaced by genuine unease. Mallory shook her head, her unease deepening. "I'm telling you, something isn't right." Despite their better judgment, the three friends found themselves in the library later that night. The shelves stretched high above them, casting long shadows in the dim light. "Remind me again why we thought this was a good idea," Harper muttered, her eyes darting nervously. "Because if we don't investigate, Mallory will never shut up about it," Jade replied, rolling her eyes but keeping her voice low. "I'm just saying, we might find something interesting," Mallory said, though her own confidence wavered. A door creaked loudly, the sound cutting through the silence like a knife. Harper froze, her face pale. "What was that?" "Relax," Mallory said, though her own pulse quickened. "It's probably just the wind." As they turned a corner, their hearts stopped. At the end of the corridor, a shadowy figure stood motionless, its form barely visible in the dim light. The figure was there for only a moment before it vanished, leaving behind the faint echo of footsteps. Mallory's breath caught in her throat. What is going on here? The next morning, the sun rose, but the chill of the previous night lingered in their bones. The trio gathered on the quad, each of them haunted by the events they'd witnessed. "So, about last night," Harper said, crossing her arms. "Are we just going to pretend it didn't happen?" "Oh, you mean the creepy shadow that disappeared into thin air?" Jade said, her tone half joking but her expression serious. "It wasn't my imagination," Mallory said firmly. "We all saw it." Harper sighed, exasperated. "Great. So now we're ghost hunters?" Despite Harper's sarcasm, none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched. The unease followed Mallory into the lecture hall later that day. The professor's voice droned on, but her words suddenly sharpened Mallory's focus. "Before we begin, I want to address a campus safety concern," the professor said, her tone unusually grave. "There have been reports of unusual activity around campus. Please remain vigilant. Mallory's stomach dropped. Did the professor know something about last night? She exchanged nervous glances with Jade and Harper, their shared silence heavy with unspoken questions. That evening, they retraced their steps, returning to the quad where the events of the previous night had begun. The campus was eerily silent, the air heavy with tension. "This feels like a terrible idea," Harper said, her unease clear. "If we're going to figure out what's going on, we have to start somewhere," Jade replied, though her own nerves were showing. A sudden gust of wind sent a chill down their spines. The sound of approaching footsteps made them freeze. A figure emerged from the shadows, his silhouette illuminated by a nearby street lamp. "Relax," he said, his voice calm. "I'm not here to hurt you." Mallory narrowed her eyes. "And we're supposed to believe that?" The stranger stepped closer, his expression serious. "I saw what you saw last night. You're in danger." Mallory's heart raced. "Danger? From what?" He hesitated, glancing around as if to ensure they were alone. "It's better if I show you." The classroom felt suffocating, shadows gathering in the corners like unspoken secrets. "This campus isn't what it seems," Asher whispered, his voice barely audible. His sharp eyes flicked to the windows, as though he expected something, or someone, to appear. "There are things you don't want to mess with." Mallory hesitated, her nerves tightening like a coiled spring. "What are you talking about?" Asher took a step closer, his expression grave. "Let's just say the stories you've heard about this place. They're true." A sharp gasp escaped Jade as she clasped a hand to her chest, while Harper, normally the bold one, paled visibly. "This is insane," Harper stammered. "We're leaving." "You can't run from this," Asher said, his voice firm. "It'll find you." Mallory's gaze darted between her friends and Asher. "Then what do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Stick together," he said, his eyes scanning the room one last time. "And whatever happens, don't trust the shadows." The weight of his words hung in the air like a lead curtain as the four of them made their way out of the building. Night had fully settled over the campus, casting an eerie stillness over the quad. The streetlights seemed dimmer, their glow swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Mallory glanced over her shoulder as they walked. The faint sound of footsteps echoed behind them, but when she turned to look, no one was there. Her heart raced. "I don't think we're safe out here." "We're not safe anywhere," Jade muttered, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Not if what Asher said is true." Harper shot a skeptical look at Asher. "Are we seriously trusting a guy we just met?" Asher didn't flinch. "Trust me or don't," he said. "But if you want answers, follow me." Mallory hesitated for a moment, glancing at Harper and Jade. Both of them looked as uncertain as she felt, but what other choice did they have? "He's the only lead we've got," she said softly. "Let's go." They followed Asher across the quad and into an older, less frequented part of campus. The air grew colder as they approached an imposing stone building with boarded-up windows and heavy iron doors. Asher pushed one of the doors open with a creak, revealing a dimly lit hallway. The walls were lined with cracked stone and ancient carvings, and the air smelled of damp earth and decay. "This part of campus was sealed off years ago," Asher said as he stepped inside. "No one comes here anymore." "Great," Harper muttered under her breath. Nothing screams safe like a creepy abandoned hallway. Jade eyed Asher suspiciously. "Why are we here?" "Because this is where it all started," Asher replied, his voice echoing faintly. Mallory felt her stomach drop. "Started?" Started how? Asher sighed, his expression darkening. A long time ago, something was unleashed here. Something that should have stayed buried. Harper crossed her arms, her skepticism returning. And you just happened to stumble on this information? My family has been dealing with this for generations, Asher admitted, his tone softening. Jade shook her head. So what are we supposed to do about it? Survive, Asher said simply. And keep each other alive. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the distant drip of water somewhere deep within the building. Mallory couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She glanced over her shoulder, but the hallway behind them was empty. For now. The next morning, the sun rose, but the weight of the previous night lingered. Mallory, Harper, Jade, and Asher regrouped on the quad, their faces etched with exhaustion and unease. I still think we're crazy for doing this, Harper said, crossing her arms. And yet, here you are, Jade replied with a small smirk. Asher studied them for a moment. If you want to back out, now's your chance. Oh no, Harper said sarcastically. I'm committed. To my impending doom. Mallory couldn't help but laugh, the sound a rare moment of levity. Let's just focus on figuring this out. Together. They headed to the library, a sprawling labyrinth of shelves and forgotten knowledge. If there were answers to be found, this was the place to look. This place is massive, Jade said, craning her neck to look up at the towering shelves. Where do we even start? Look for anything about the campus history or supernatural occurrences, Asher suggested. Right, Harper said dryly. Because libraries always have a supernatural section. Mallory rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. Let's split up and cover more ground. The group dispersed, each taking a section of the library. Mallory ran her fingers over the spines of dusty books, her thoughts racing. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed darker, more alive, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. By nightfall, the campus was plunged back into darkness, and the four of them found themselves back outside. The air was thick with tension, the kind that pressed down on your chest and made it hard to breathe. I don't like this, Harper said, her voice trembling. Not one bit. None of us do, Jade replied, her voice steady. But we're in this together. Stay close, Asher warned. His eyes darted to the shadows. And remember, don't trust the shadows. Mallory swallowed hard, her pulse racing. Whatever was out there, they were about to face it. Together. And the truth? It was waiting for them, just out of reach, its cost still unknown. Chapter 2. The campus of Stone Sky University buzzed with life under the warm hues of autumn. The leaves swirled in the crisp air, their vibrant reds and golds blending with the chatter of students crisscrossing the quad. Mallory adjusted the strap of her bag, her nervous energy evident in the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her eyes darted to her friends, Jade and Harper, who seemed far more relaxed. Jade was the embodiment of confidence, her short wavy hair framing her face like a crown. She was stylish as ever, dressed in a fitted leather jacket and ripped jeans, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Harper, on the other hand, radiated an easygoing vibe. Her tousled hair was pulled into a messy half-bun, and her soft blue sweater complemented her sharp wit and subtle sarcasm. The three of them made a striking trio, each with their distinct energy that balanced the group. Hey, Mallory said, pointing toward the far side of the quad. Isn't that Asher over there? Jade's eyes lit up, and she tilted her head for a better look. It is. And he's not alone. Who are those two? Harper smirked, crossing her arms. Maybe they're just as mysterious as he is. Let's find out. The three girls made their way across the quad, weaving through clusters of students. As they approached, Mallory couldn't help but feel a flutter of nerves. She had always found Asher intriguing, with his intense gaze and quiet demeanor. Today, he stood with two other guys, laughing at something one of them had said. Asher spotted them first. Tall and broad-shouldered, he had an effortlessly cool presence, his chestnut brown hair slightly disheveled as though he hadn't bothered to comb it. His dark eyes were sharp and observant, and his pink-toned complexion, contrasting subtly with the dark green jacket he wore over a plain white shirt, gave him the look of someone perpetually caught in the tail end of a crisp morning. Standing next to him was Elias, his black hair artfully tousled, as though styled by a mix of carelessness and charm. His almond-shaped brown eyes, bright with amusement, gave him a sharp yet approachable look that hinted he was always on the verge of delivering a clever quip. His pale complexion seemed to almost glow under the lighting, a subtle contrast to his casual outfit, an effortlessly cool denim jacket and well-worn jeans. His smile came easily, a quick curve of his lips that made him look like he was perpetually in on a joke no one else had heard yet. Then there was Lachlan, exuding a quiet intensity that drew attention without effort. His black fade-cut hair was perfectly groomed, emphasizing his sharp features and caramel-toned skin that seemed to catch the light just right. His deep brown eyes carried a warmth that contrasted with the enigmatic confidence in the way he held himself. Dressed in a sleek black leather jacket layered over a gray hoodie, he struck a perfect balance between edgy and laid-back, like someone equally at home on a motorcycle or deep in a philosophical debate. "Are they coming over here?" Asher asked, crossing his arms. Elias leaned in, grinning. "Looks like it. Better act natural." "Natural?" Lachlan snorted, his voice deep and rich. "This should be good." Mallory, Jade, and Harper came to a stop in front of the trio. There was a moment of silence, not awkward but charged, as though everyone was sizing each other up. "Asher," Mallory began, her voice uncertain, "we, just happened to pass by." Jade stepped forward, taking charge as usual. "Yeah, we saw you three and thought, now that's an interesting group." Elias grinned, clearly enjoying her boldness. "Interesting, huh? I'll take that as a compliment." "Depends," Jade shot back, her tone playful. "Are you the charming type? Stick around, and you might find out." Elias winked, making Jade laugh. Before anyone could say more, Harper jumped in, crossing her arms over her chest. Her long, dirty blonde hair tumbled down her back in loose waves, catching the light like strands of spun gold. The soft cream of her pink-toned skin added to the striking contrast of her bright blue eyes, which seemed to blaze with intensity. With a sharp glance, she could command a room or silence it entirely, with a single look, giving her the appearance of someone who could set a room ablaze with a glare. Her bright blue eyes narrowed as she regarded Elias and Lachlan with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Harper raised an eyebrow at Lachlan. "Please tell me you're not all charm and no substance." Lachlan grinned, his laughter joining hers. For a brief moment, the air between them seemed to lighten, like a truce had been silently declared. Lachlan smirked, his arms crossed. "Oh, I'm plenty of substance. But you seem like you're all attitude." Harper's lips quirked upward in amusement. "Touché." Elias' gaze landed first on Jade, who stood with her hands on her hips, her short blue-dyed curls bouncing slightly as she tilted her head. Her sharp brown eyes glimmered with mischief, matching the sly smile that played on her lips. The warm caramel tone of her tan skin seemed to catch the light, giving her an almost luminous quality that contrasted strikingly with her edgy style. Dressed in a fitted leather jacket and boots that could only be described as "don't mess with me" chic, Jade met Elias' gaze without flinching. Mallory, standing slightly off to the side, let out a quiet sigh, her almond-shaped brown eyes darting to Asher in silent exasperation. Her raven-black hair, tied into loose pigtail plaits, shimmered subtly as she shifted her weight, the movement betraying her growing discomfort. Her pale cheeks, which always seemed to carry a soft pink hue, deepened to a warmer crimson as she fought back laughter at Jade's over-the-top antics. When her eyes met Asher's, her silent plea for backup was met only with his infuriatingly smug smirk. "So," Mallory said, stepping forward with her arms crossed, her tone curious but cautious, "are you two just as obsessed with strange happenings as Asher?" Asher put his hands in his pockets, his signature calm expression betraying a hint of amusement. "They're worse," he said. "Elias, Lachlan, meet Mallory, Jade, and Harper." Elias offered a dramatic bow, his grin never wavering. "A pleasure to meet you," he said, his voice smooth and teasing. Lachlan gave a casual wave, the kind that seemed effortlessly cool. "Especially under such intriguing circumstances," he added. Mallory shot Asher a skeptical look. "You mean horrifying, right?" she said dryly. Elias chuckled, shaking his head. "Relax," he said. "We'll all be fine." "Probably." "Probably?" Harper repeated, her voice rising an octave. She crossed her arms tighter, fixing him with a glare. "That's not reassuring." Lachlan raised his hands in mock defense, his grin softening. "Don't worry," he said, his tone playful. "I'll protect you." "Yeah, right," Harper retorted, but the corner of her mouth lifted in the faintest smile. Asher cleared his throat, reclaiming everyone's attention. "Speaking of horrifying," he said, "there's something we need to talk about. If you're serious about finding answers, we'll need to go to the hidden place we visited last time." "The hidden place?" Jade interjected, her voice tinged with a mix of fear and intrigue. "Why does that sound like the start of a horror movie?" "Relax," Elias said, throwing an arm around Lachlan's shoulder. "We're seasoned adventurers. What could go wrong?" "Don't answer that," Mallory muttered under her breath, earning a laugh from Jade. Harper took a deep breath, her eyes darting between Asher and the two new arrivals. "All right," she said, her voice steady but cautious. "Let's do this. Together." Mallory nodded, her resolve firm. "Yeah. Together." With that, the group exchanged a collective glance, a silent agreement passing between them. Whatever lay ahead, they were in it now, together. The crypt was eerily silent, save for the faint echo of footsteps and the occasional rustle of unseen movements. The air hung heavy, charged with a sense of foreboding as Mallory, Jade, and Harper stood in the dim light of flickering lanterns. Shadows danced on the walls, casting ominous shapes that seemed to twist and writhe as if alive. "This place gives me the creeps," Mallory said, her voice trembling as her eyes darted around the room. "Why did we think this was a good idea?" Harper crossed her arms tightly over her chest, her expression one of reluctant acceptance. "We didn't have much of a choice, Mallory. That shadow, whatever it was, we had to run somewhere." In a neighboring section of the crypt, Asher, Elias, and Lachlan stood in a tense cluster, their eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Asher's tone was measured but firm as he broke the silence. "We're not safe here either. This campus has a history, a dangerous one." Elias, ever the pragmatic one, shrugged nonchalantly. "He's not kidding. We've been studying the legends for years. And now, Lachlan growled, his tone edged with frustration, it feels like the curse is alive again. Back in their section, Jade furrowed her brows. Curse? What curse? Harper glanced nervously between her friends. What exactly are we dealing with here? Elias's voice carried through the crypt as he explained from the other side. A cycle. Every 100 years, strange things happen, disappearances, deaths. Lachlan's expression darkened. And it's tied to this campus. To something buried deep in its history. A sudden clap of thunder reverberated through the crypt, making the group jump. So what now? Mallory asked, her voice rising slightly in pitch. Do we leave the campus? Jade's sarcastic laugh echoed in the confined space. Yeah, because running away always solves everything. Leaving won't stop it, Lachlan interjected, his voice sharp. The curse always finds a way back. Elias nodded solemnly. The only way to stop it is to uncover its origin. That's why we're here. And how do we do that without getting ourselves killed? Harper asked, her voice tinged with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Asher's calm voice cut through the tension. We stick together. We investigate. And we figure out what's reawakened the curse. Mallory set her jaw, determination flickering in her eyes. If this curse has a history, there has to be something documented about it, right? Like a book? Harper offered. Old records? This is a hidden library of sorts, it's worth a shot. Jade rolled her eyes but nodded begrudgingly. Sure. Let's just Google ancient deadly curse. That'll fix everything. The three began searching, their movements cautious but purposeful. The oppressive silence was soon broken by the faint sound of a shifting shelf. Mallory froze, her hand pressed against the wood. This shelf, it's loose. Jade leaned in, peering over her shoulder. Loose how? Like hidden passage loose or it's going to crush us loose? Let's find out? Mallory said, her voice barely above a whisper. Harper stepped closer, her heart pounding as the shelf creaked ominously. Slowly, it swung open, revealing a dark, narrow passage. This is straight out of a horror movie, Harper muttered, her voice trembling. Why do secret passages always have to be creepy? Jade smirked. Would you prefer a red carpet and chandeliers? Quiet, Mallory hissed. Look at this. She pointed to the walls, her voice dropping as she added, there are claw marks. Claw marks? Harper yelped, her fear rising. Something, or someone didn't want to be here, Jade murmured, her voice unusually somber. Asher's voice echoed faintly from the other room. They're taking too long. We should check on them. Elias shook his head. They're capable. They'll call us if they need help. Unless something down there doesn't want them to call us, Lachlan said darkly. In the crypt's hidden chamber, the air was colder, heavier. Symbols etched into the walls seemed to glow faintly, their meaning lost to time but their intent unmistakable, a warning. This room. Mallory whispered. It's ancient. Look at these symbols. They're not just decoration, Harper said, her voice filled with unease. They're warnings. This place was meant to keep something locked away. Mallory knelt, her hand brushing against a dusty tome that suddenly began to glow faintly. She gasped, her heart racing. The book. It's glowing. What does that mean? Harper asked, her voice tinged with panic. Jade's eyes narrowed. It means, we've found something connected to the curse. The darkness seemed to press closer as the group exchanged uncertain glances. Somewhere in the crypt, the shadows stirred, alive, watching and waiting for its moment to strike.